for October 4th, 2022. It's 5:30. I'll call this meeting to order. May I have roll call, please?
Commissioner Hewitt?
Here.
Vice Mayor Suey?
Here.
Commissioner Romanek?
Here.
Commissioner McQuaid?
Here.
Mayor Orndorff?
Here. Please stand for the saluted flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975, was advertised, posted, and made available to the public as required by statute. The municipal clerk is directed to include a statement in the minutes of this meeting. Clerk, has there been any changes to this agenda?
No, Mayor.
Presentations?
We have no presentations.
And public comment on agenda items only. If anybody has any comments this evening, please come to the podium, state your name and comments. Seeing nobody, will close the public comment on agenda items only and go to discussions of commissioners. Commissioner Romanek?
Yes, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to talk about the Lakeside Sport Complex, and with that, I'd like to invite my department head, Samantha Cruz, to further discuss the Lakeside Sport Complex.
It's like halfway. I'm not going to really present anything else besides this map, so it's okay. This was just kind of give everybody an idea. If you, first of all, for a public record, my name is Samantha Cruz. I'm the manager of Parks and Recreation Department here in the city of Millville. I posted a picture of our current Lakeside. We actually never really came up a real name for it, so we always just call it the Lakeside Middle School Sports Complex, because throughout its history, it's had soccer, field hockey, lacrosse, football. It has a very, very long history stemming back all the way to when Goodman Properties built the Union Lake Crossing Center. A few fields were taken for that project, and that's how we got the soccer complex out to Bogdan Boulevard. Currently, right now, this is what it looks like out to behind Lakeside Middle School. We don't also have fancy names for the fields, so we call this the Target Field, the main field, and Genesis Field. Okay, so we got real fancy with our names. So, but it's the easiest way when you're on the phone and you need to describe where to go. That's how you tell them. We do have a very small field behind here, and our concession stand is right here. So long story short, a few years ago, actually, when Vice Mayor Shoei was here before, we had a problem out to Rob Shannon Sports Complex with our midget football league. We had all kind of rubbish, glass, stone, you name it, coming up through the old landfill grounds. Our insurance company got involved and said, sorry, we can't play football out here anymore. So we came up with this project to give them a home very quickly. We spent, I don't know, tons of time. Vice Mayor Suey actually went out there and cut trees himself to try to get this project completed. We just kind of all banded together knowing that midget football needed a field to play on in the fall. So we laid sod, we erected new football fields. So we actually only had one regulation football field out here. So that's quite a bit, only having one regulation football field for the large midget football program that we do have. I think currently today, we're probably about 150 kids, cheerleaders. They have a whole cheerleading squad that also participates and does things at this complex pretty much every night of the week except for Friday. They're there on Saturdays, and they're also there pretty much all day Sunday to have games. Games are sanctioned by Tri-County, so it's not like Millville can say, this is when we're having the games. They tell us when we're having games. So to put it into the mix of it, we do have our high school band that uses the fields there on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, and also on Saturday mornings. If the field is being occupied by football, they're very kind and they do use the parking lot. But that's also a little bit of a concern because people act a little crazy and they drive through there to get over to the shopping center. So sometimes we do worry about doing any activity in the parking lot. I do know day school, the gym classes have the same concern. So then we were building this field in the back, which I call it a wasteland because that's what it looks like on a map to me. But we started building a field back here. We were about 2 years in, and then we kind of stopped. COVID hit, everything stopped, and we did not finish building that field through the city. So currently, right now, we have all the schedules, like I was saying, and then we have lacrosse and soccer, who is from the school, from Lakeside Middle School, who's also using the field too. So we're having a lot of problems with scheduling, and we just have a lot of kids trying to do a lot of things at this complex. So I have ideas of some solutions, but I think it's going to take everybody coming together to really resolve our scheduling issues out there between the school board and us. But I did want to bring it to the commission's attention because I'm getting calls every evening about, overage use and there not being have enough room for the kids. And I mean, we're pretty much occupying every field every single night out there. So trying to think if I missed anything. That was pretty much all of it in a really condensed package.
So one of the problems, as I understand, is there's no transportation available.
Correct.
To take kids to any other facility where we actually have fields, but there's no way to get them there because there's a shortage of bus drivers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're having the same problems as everybody else getting help.
Yeah.
So that's something else that, we have other fields at other places, but no way to get the kids there.
Right.
I think schedules have changed since we were in high school. We stayed after school and participated in
Well, they
marching band and
do.
stuff, but now they don't do that as much.
Well, Lakeside, lacrosse, and soccer.
They stay after
They
school.
stay after school and are there, but that's one of the issues. Prior to COVID, I think you were busing them to a different location, weren't you, Coach? No? Okay. So either way, we can't, they can't get the buses to, even if we had magical field somewhere or magical buses, we can't get the kids from Lakeside anywhere else to have a facility. One of the problems with moving, and let's say, so the kids that are playing football, they rely heavily on their concession stand. That's how they make their money for their facility. So yes, I could get the people that drive to go somewhere else, but then I don't have a concession stand.
What about the high school marching band? They're obviously getting transported. How are they?
No, our parents are doing it.
Parents are
We
doing it?
drop off at 5, 6 o'clock, and we pick up at 8:30.
So if there were somewhere else they could do it, if we had lights, then they could do it somewhere else.
They do need the lights, yeah. That's their biggest issue.
But it's still, so that would only free up
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we're
Saturdays still, they're only there Saturdays
Yeah.
prior to maybe
So
2
band's
hours
really
before competition.
band is really not a huge, they're not really conflicting in the schedules that much. The band kind of just flows in there very easily. It's having a full lacrosse game going on, a full soccer game going on, scrimmages, football scrimmages, and I think that's one of the other issues too is that we only have one regulation football field.
Well, I'm a little confused because if nobody was transported before and we didn't have a scheduling problem before, why do we have one now?
I'm assuming because we have more kids out there,
More
but
kids, more
Do
teams.
you have more kids
more-
participating or what?
Football used to be at the other.
Yeah, but when I was in office before and we moved out there, we didn't have this problem like we're having now with everybody
I don't think
calling every
we
day.
didn't have as many kids in the program, Vice Mayor.
I think also,
Yeah, I think he probably should approach it. If you want to approach the.
You can share with her.
First of all, she does a wonderful job, let me tell you. And so does everybody up here. So thank you for trying to work with the Board of Education. We have a lot of kids in our town. I call it our town. I don't live here, but I've been working here for many years, so I call it our town. Commissioner Sui, the issue was, I know when initially the football group, and those kids deserve a place to play too. Let me first off start, everybody deserves a place to have an opportunity to practice and all that stuff. But I think they were so interested in making sure that it worked that they were willing to do whatever it took. So they were, like Samantha said, they didn't have as many kids in the program, I think, and I think they were doing something where it was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, opposite of band. And then weekends is an issue. That's not an issue. And so somehow they made it work. I got to give the youth football league some credit. We've run into a situation now, which is a good situation, where we have a lot of kids participating middle school sports, and it's field hockey right now, and girls soccer, boys soccer, and then you have a lot of kids. Did you say 150?
Yeah.
About 150 kids playing in a youth football league. So last week we ran into a situation where the middle school field hockey games went a little longer, just because they went longer. There's sometimes that it happens, and then the youth football league had practice set up at a certain time. I think it was 5:30, and so they're waiting until our game finished, which was another 45 minutes. I think it ended around 6:15, what Samantha was telling me the exact time. So for 2 nights, those parents and those kids had to wait 45 minutes. Now, I say those kids had to wait, but I didn't want to end the game for my field hockey kids who deserve to play.
Correct.
So we have this conundrum here where we got to somewhat figure out the time for either the time constraints or figure out new fields.
So we have both city recreational sports and you're saying middle school as well. Does the
Correct.
JV football team over there, or are they still at the high school?
They're at the high school.
They are at the high school.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just Millville recreational football and then middle school field hockey and soccer.
Correct. It's
And
middle
then
school
marching band
athletics and youth football, and band is there 2 nights a week. I don't think they're like Samantha was saying.
I don't think they're conflicting.
They're
I've
not
never seen-
conflicting.
okay.
We can make that work. Whatever.
Okay.
I'm sure that's not an issue.
Sam, are both our fields being used at Bacon School? The baseball fields?
So we currently, the baseball fields at our complex, right?
Yeah,
Here.
your Bacon
No, most of those fields, I mean, at this time of the year, not really. They're heavily used in the spring. There's very few fall balls going
Is there
on.
lights?
There is, yeah.
Can
Yes.
we move football over there 2 days a week?
I mean, we could try it on a baseball field. I mean, the field's
Yeah, I mean, if
dimensions
they're practicing,
and.
they're
yeah.
practicing, they're not, they
Yeah,
don't need-
I mean, I do know special teams, when they're not on the game field, they're, they go, like, they take their special team group. Let's say they're scrimmaging over on the Genesis field or Target
Right.
field, and it's time for special teams. They run them over on the field, because they're the only field goals they have. That's, I don't know if we could erect them somewhere. We have them, by the way. Remember, we
saved them, right?
We unfortunately we ordered new ones, and the new ones didn't come in time for football, so we put the old ones up. So we still have new ones, but it's a difficult. They need a football field really to be practicing and scrimmaging on.
How much space is between that deserted field? Is that
So
can
when we laid it out originally, it was going to be 2 regulation football fields. That's what we had figured out with the engineering department.
can we make that happen somehow?
So I guess we got
We
something
need
else.
money. So we do have a way to get water out there. We did do that. We had a water wheel, but I think we need some. If you're asking if the fields could be built, it could be, because we know how to do that here in the city of Millville. Whether it's between the school board and the city, but you need some good fertilization, and we probably
Irrigation. So this is a project, I think, because both the city recreation teams and the Board of Ed teams are using them, that I think that both of us can work together to be able to find the funds for that. I don't think this would be just on the city.
it's an option. I'm just.
I know
I'm
sports
looking at-
complexes want it in the city, but if this is a way to help,
Yeah, I'm just kind of, it's like, we're just looking for a solution for this,
Yeah, I mean, we need a short-term solution, then we need a
Yes.
long-term solution.
Yeah.
So,
Is there a way, Mr. Beatty, you're on the financial committee, so is there a way that this school could help the city if we work as a team member to vitalize the field? You can go up to the mic too. This way you can answer the mayor's question on that aspect.
And I'm Mike Beatty. I'm a member of the Millville Board of Education. I chair the Finance and Facilities Committee, among others. This is an old issue. Joe and Mr. Brock can testify that we've talked about this. It started in '05. We had a discussion in '15, and we had a meeting in '19 where Mr. Cooper represented the commission, and Mr. Cooper basically said, we're not going to do anything. At the same time, if you recall, it was right after a very unfortunate incident at the Lakeside facility, and Mr. Ennis, who was the president of the Little Midget Football League, basically was shutting his league down in order to fix or at least put in solutions. A lot of the things that have been said, we've already been over. The Midget Football League committed basically to maintaining the field. They have committed to having their own security. Yes, the concession stand is a major fundraiser for it. Well, I think it's the only fundraiser. At one point, Mr. DeSantis, who is our band director, actually volunteered to do joint fundraising so that everybody would be smile, smile, smile. Back at that time, especially 15, yes, there were very few Midget Football League folks. And it was agreed and we talked, we would work together. And I believe we did. I believe we worked very well together. Mr. DeSantis and Mr. Ennis worked out a schedule. Everybody was fine and dandy. Now, yes, with the advent of more children at Lakeside getting involved in school athletics, I'm going to stand here and tell you I'm going to support those children and that activity. That's part of our educational process, so I don't want to default on that. So all the money we're going to talk about is me saying, yes, I'm going to pour money into Mr. Lagama's program to ensure the programs at Lakeside for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade children are advanced. So no, I don't believe, I mean, we'd have to listen to what you're going to propose and see where it fits into our budget. I can't guarantee you anything. All I'm trying to say is the fields, as you, Mr. Suey knows, we have a right of first use, and city is second if as long as it doesn't interfere with.
I think you're mistaken about that when we looked into the Green Acres stuff before, but go ahead.
Well, we both resolutions that were passed by this
It
commission.
doesn't matter what resolutions are
Well,
passed. the Green
and I
Acres
agree with
law
you.
prevails.
I think we talked about this before. Green Acres has some overriding rules and regulations. But be that as it may, both boards have agreed through resolutions, although you're correct. If you read the Green Acres rules, there's a lot of rules around that. One of which is, I believe, the city actually needs to maintain that property. I believe Mr. Suey made that.
You are correct, it is city property.
Yeah, and I believe you made that point back in 15 that, you know, that was the part of the Green Acres regulations, not any of our regulations. It's the state regulations that you agree to when you fork over the land. So yeah, it's not as, I think Mr. Brock said at one meeting, it's not as simple as just saying yes or no. I think we need to at least talk. Very willing to do that.
So I have just a question, and Brock, maybe you can help with it being Green Acres, and I don't know what the previous agreement was and what you're saying as far as we maintaining that land. I think that many conversations that we've had moving forward with this commission is that we would like to be able to work together with the Board of Ed and create some, maybe, can we change that agreement that if per se that's, hey, the future home of Board of Ed sports complex, that this is something that both the city and the Board of Ed would then maintain. Is that something that is possible? Is that can that stuff be changed as far as that with the Green Acres?
I mean, we've found, much to our chagrin, that when property is under Green Acres, there are a lot of limitations on us. And there are a lot of things that we've tried to do in other parts of the city where there's Green Acres, and we found out we can't do them. Recreation is one of the, I think, permitted activities on Green Acres property, and I think that would be a recreation used by the city, as I understand it. So now, does that mean that the city, can't enter into an agreement with the Board of Ed and allow another recreation used by them?
Yeah.
I think we probably can do that, but it is nevertheless subject to Green Acres.
And you can double check, but I believe that's water over the dam. I believe by resolution, we've already agreed that if the school as first use is not using it, it is to be the Midget Football League.
No, I
I
understand
don't want to
that.
argue that first use stuff, because when I talked to Green Acres before, the bottom line is you guys can't be in control of any Green Acres land. That's unfortunately the rule, and there's no such thing as an agreement where you have first use And in fact, if any agreement whatsoever isn't on file with Green Acres, it's null and void.
Okay.
So I don't even know if that was filed, because if you filed it, Green Acres would probably say. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. We still have
Doesn't-
to work together. Whoever has
that's
first
right.
use, second use, whatever, we still have to work together. That's the important thing.
And I agree, and I believe, once again, we're back to that. We really need to have another discussion about use of that particular property.
Yes, and maybe some others too. That I have a couple ideas that we can discuss
That-
later on.
Definitely some fundraisers. I think that, fundraising was always an option as well. But I think this is a conversation, like we've said, I think, Sam, we've talked about this. It's getting the Board of Ed and us together and speaking of what we can do. And it's
I
for
would
the
recommend-
betterment of the kids in the community. And I think it's great to see that there is a huge increase of kids being involved in their academics. And I what I see is that, we have a lot of volunteers coming out and doing our recreation teams, and I kudos to them, hats off, because it is not an easy thing to do. But then your parents are doing a registration fee, and then there's fundraisers, and then they're asked to maintain and put their own money and time into maintaining those fields, or, and we need to work together to see what we can do. And I think that is something.
Well, Mr. Beatty, can I ask one more question? You're getting
Sure.
ready to make a substantial investment in the football field at the junior high school, the Memorial High School. I mean, I think I read somewhere around, I don't know, $5 million or something.
Yes, that's approximately correct.
So
To
you have
do-
$5 million you're gonna spend on a football field that only the football team uses. I mean, track uses some of it, right?
No, sir.
Who else uses that?
The money our plans are embedded in that is a brand-new track that would make us eligible for meets at a state level. We have some movement of our stands and lighting, but the field will be striped for, the goal is not only football, but soccer, lacrosse. Our band would use it. Field hockey.
Band wouldn't
This
practice
will
on
be
that. They would be-
striped, this will have the ability to be striped for a large portion of our high school athletics.
All right.
But that would be just
but
games,
what I'm
not
getting at
practice.
what I'm getting at is you
Yes.
have a pretty hefty sized budget for athletics.
No, sir, we don't.
The field, you do, you have $5 million you're gonna spend, right?
No, sir.
You're not gonna spend $5 million.
Yes, we are, but that is not our athletic budget. That is a special project coming under our capital
Okay, so you
program.
have
But
$5 million under a capital improvement project that you're gonna spend on athletics.
in this particular case,
In
that's
this
true.
particular case, right? And I'm sure you have other money in the capital fund. So what I'm proposing is we somehow work together, and perhaps not at Lakeside, perhaps somewhere else, and we can make some kind of field happen, especially with the amount of money that you're allocating to athletics, which is a
Not-
good thing. I'm not criticizing it at all.
But including practice fields. We don't need
Correct,
just game day
including-
fields,
right,
because
it's
that's
not
what you're
game
proposing
fields.
is a $5 million project as a
Game
game
field,
field.
yes.
And we
Yeah.
are struggling with practice fields. That is the issue, not the game field.
Well, once
Just
again,
something to look into. You know.
Brock, is there a way that the commission and Board of Education could put a committee together to hash out between the two, certain ones on the committee, between the board and commission here, to hash out these
That's a good idea, Bob.
differentiations?
Well, I think you can certainly form a subcommittee. I think the board can do so too.
But this way you
just
have
can't
to-
have
from
more
each
than two
party.
commissioners on the subcommittee, and then you wouldn't want a quorum of Board of Education members, and then you could, because one of the things that comes to my mind is that the unfinished field in the back, that can't be, no matter how much money you had to spend, you can't make that ready this year. That
No,
would
that's
be-
what I'm saying. We need short-term and long-term solutions.
Right, and
if-
you have to,
So I do, real quick, I didn't want to speak out of turn for the actual Holly City midget football. The Mills we got a president and just the lady of football, okay? Michelle Mills, he really doesn't do anything. We love you, Jeff. But how many kids? I said 150, but I don't, 156. Okay, so I was. Okay, so that wasn't including cheerleading. I apologize. So I think, Mr. Beatty, you are correct. I think when the incident did happen, we talked about the project from the very beginning. I do agree. I think there were a lot less football kids. The field usage, we stuck to a very regulated schedule because, and they did what they had to do. I mean, they didn't do practices. Football, as everyone knows in this room, if you follow football, it's a very competitive sport. So you need to practice pretty much 7 days a week. You might get one day off. I mean, it's the truth. So I think you're correct on that. I think that there wasn't as many kids. Like, I think that's why we're having a problem now is because everything's opening back up. So, we were discussing that, Michelle. So.
Am I able to speak?
Yes.
Just real quick. I'm sorry we came in a few minutes late. We're both coming from work.
Can you just introduce yourself? I know Sam said, but just for the record, so
My name is Michelle Slaney Mills, and I am the president's wife for the Holly City Youth Midget Football League.
thank you.
I think there's a possible solution to this year's issue, whether there's a field made or not. We've been dealing with that for 6 years now. We were thinking possibly that the field hockey could play on the Genesis side, because if they're leaving, our sophomore team plays on that side. They practice, but that they used to practice the field hockey used to practice on that field. There's no lighting there, but the lighting, if they're off by 6:30, they wouldn't need lighting. So our boys practice from 6 to 8, or from 5:45 to 8 o'clock, 8:30. They come over anyway and do their sophomore practice on that big field. The big field where they're playing, we have 4 teams. We will have 4 teams. We have 3 now because we opened up to Pee Wee, which is 4 and 5-year-olds. We have freshmen, which is 5 to 7, and then sophomores 8 to 9, and then the juniors and the seniors. All of them will be practicing on that field as soon as it gets darker, earlier. So if they were able to do their games on that field, then we wouldn't be disrupting them, they wouldn't be disrupting us, and we could keep our kids over here and on this side. So I'm just thinking that would be a solution. I've been thinking about it all day, and I'm like trying to figure out what would be the best solution.
Coach, is that something that would be feasible? Would we be able to do that? Would that work for this field hockey team?
So unfortunately, it doesn't work this year. We would prefer playing there. We used to have our field hockey practices, and they wouldn't let us play on that field.
That's the one. That's where the marching
That's
band
the-
currently
the
practices.
Genesis.
With
The Genesis field.
So
That's
the Genesis
That one.
field.
right here.
What happened over the summer with as we know, the pond dried up as well. Between the
Irrigation.
no rain,
Yeah.
we also have an irrigation issue out there, which we are currently working on. But once again, it's not going to solve the issue. Like, it can be a good field for them, but they won't allow them to play on it. So
Next year, you might be able to play on it.
Oh, it's going to be
We-
fixed.
But you can't do
It's
it
gonna
this
be
year
fixed.
if it's fixed.
Sam,
we have a field at Brick Avenue. How big? Can that be used for anything? Not that I even know that it's used, but it's a decent sized field. You got 2 baseball or softball and a baseball, but in between, is that something that could be used?
So possibly, and then you run and so the issue that Samantha and I talked, and the issue of transportation comes into play again. So we're having a hard enough time. There's just not enough drivers apparently, and I don't make that's a Shepherd bus issue that we deal with, but there's just simply not enough drivers. I know Shepherd has enough buses, not enough drivers. So we actually have games that are canceled on a frequent basis because there's not enough drivers. So the issue is, and in fact, we don't just play field hockey. We would end up playing soccer at those fields. It is a conundrum. It's tough. And like I said earlier, I think that all these groups deserve a place to play. It's just whether it's soccer, field hockey, if we're on that field, it's going to, like a soccer game lasts 80 minutes plus 10 minutes of break. You're talking an hour and a half minimum. So it's tough.
So these are the Lakeside kids that are coming outside and they're playing there after school, that they don't have transportation to get there.
Correct. So it's easy.
Would
just to
the
walk
Board of Ed let maybe the recreational team play on the Rick Avenue field or another field?
I can't answer that. That's something
Is that an option? Like, we're letting you use the city
practice,
fields for
that is.
recreation. Would the Board of Ed allow the recreation teams to use the school board's fields that aren't being used?
Yeah, I just wouldn't feel comfortable answering that because.
Well, I'm not asking you to answer.
Yeah.
I'm just proposing an idea. Like,
Great
there's so
idea.
many
Mayor, that's a-
school
probably a
fields
good
that aren't
idea to-
being used.
I mean, you make a really good point there, because, we as a city have the responsibility to provide the fields for city leagues. You as the Board of Education have the responsibility to provide the fields for the school. So, I'd like to get at least, I hope so, or we'll work on that for, if they could practice there, that would solve your problem.
From me, I would say, Mayor, that's probably not a bad idea, but I'd rather let someone from the Board of Education answer that.
Okay, so back to, I think we should sit down and talk. I think that should go on the list. We're talking about fields. We're talking about children spread out across the city. So I really would recommend we put that on the list of, could we please have a little joint meeting and discuss all these issues so that all the children get to the right spot. Personally, I would encourage you to see if you could continue trying to build that field. That was the original solution. And it, as Susan said, it started and got 2 years into the process and then stopped. I know the issue, I do. We just had this discussion 5 minutes ago about projects that need to be funded. We have that problem at the school board level. It's not that we have a budget that reoccurs every year. It's a budget that is limited by state and local funding. It is. But if we could somehow put a plan, part of the discussion, put that plan back in place, that I believe Mr. Suey suggested it in 15. This is the solution.
Yeah, we were doing it till, we lost the election, and the next group decided not to continue with it. So that's the
Well,
way
I
that
understand.
I think what we established tonight is that this commission is willing to work with the Board of Education, sit down, have a meeting with Parks and Recreation and whatever departments we need to as far as finance for both sides, and find a way to make it work for the school and the recreational teams. It's important. These kids need to know that their city supports them in their sports. And I think we've had some amazing kids come from this city, and I think that we need to continue to show that support. And I think we can make it happen. I know we will make it happen.
I was just going to say, it's not an issue. We're certainly open to sitting down at any time.
So Sam, I'm sure we can, and Lagamba, I think that, we can get that conversation started, get a meeting, and whoever needs to be there and facilitate that.
So I do want to just, with the Genesis field, Vice Mayor Sir actually was with me one day, and we went and looked at it. What basically happens, we're not getting enough pressure because over the years, rig jobs have been done on irrigation. So it's no athletics actual fault. It's a water issue. So we are going to resolve that. But that, unfortunately, even if I can get that field up and running, which also means I need to seed it now, I'm really close. If I seed in the spring, they still won't be able to use that field as a game field for lacrosse or soccer. It's just the way it works with germination and seed and all that business. So I guess that's where we're coming with now, is that we need to come up with a short-term plan to get us through our next 8 weeks, right? Till December. And then, a long-term plan.
So short term, we need to figure out if we can use other fields that are maybe the school has, that maybe
something
that the city, the recreational teams can work with, and if we can include the Mills family on this conversation, make sure that everybody's included, make sure we have all ideas going, and we don't miss anything. And see what we can do for that short term. Anybody else have anything? Any other suggestions?
I've been sitting here quiet, listening. I hear lots of ideas, which most likely took time to come up with those ideas. Is there an idea on approximate money that needs to be spent? I mean, we're also in a situation with money city-wise. Has there been discussion of dollar figures?
I think that when we did it before, we kind of were just piecing it together. We probably need to get an actual real, number, like, when they actually build a field. So that is something that we can do. We were trying to save money.
We were stealing money from everywhere.
Yeah, we were stealing money from everywhere. We didn't even put underground irrigation. We actually tapped off the small field and ran a line out back there so we could run a water wheel. When I say we were cheaping it, we were cheaping it.
Let's face it, we all
Now
know
we're in a
sitting here
predicament.
right now, we don't
Yeah.
have a lot of places to steal money from right now.
The bottom line is it's gonna happen because it has to happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not like it's an option, it's something that has to be done.
And
It's a
the
matter
other-
of figuring out how and where the money's coming from.
Yeah, and honestly, I really think that just bringing it to this level, you know, after talking to Commissioner Romanek, it's just so every commissioner, this is the way we can communicate with all 5 commissioners. So that, you know, it's nothing like, let's get the school board, or let's, you know, midget football, or youth athletics, or any of that. This is how we, as a commission, have to communicate. So that's why it was put on as a discussion for this meeting. I want to make that clear, that it wasn't like any kind of, it's no attack toward anything. We just have a problem and we need to figure it out. And you know, I've been in recreation for, I make Coach Field 17 years, and I love my job. I don't like problems, but I've figured out a lot of them over the years. But a lot of them come with, you know, a complete commission, you know, saying this is what we're going to get done, and then continuing it after. That's one of the hardest parts that I've found as a city employee, because for 3 years now, you know, you may or may not be here, and then I have an own commissioner that might not follow the plans that we have in place. So I'm not saying I won't remember any conversation.
No pressure
'cause there's
is
a
what
lot,
she's saying.
You know, like there's no
Get it
there's,
done.
There's no you know, there's no one really to blame. I think just a lot of things have happened over the years, and believe me, if midget football could still be at Rob Shannon Sports Complex, they'd be very happy. They had a perfect concession stand. That's another thing too, is that concession stand is really not. They make do in there. Believe me, I've been there and I've seen it, and they make it do. And they had a very large, nice concession stand out the Rob Shannon. So, you know, I think everybody's kind of hurting, and we just got to figure out the way to take care of everyone.
Sam, thank you for bringing everybody together and, you know, initiating this conversation. Lagamba, Mr. and Mr. Mills, you know, thank you first of all for what you're doing. It is not an easy task to organize and maintain all that. So I think that we'll make it work, and we'll come up with a solution. And if we can, Sam, if you could just get those conversations and meetings started, short term and long term, with the correct people, we'll get a game plan.
Agreed. Yeah.
We got 3 years to knock it out.
Yeah, and we all know that the underlying issue here is
8 months at this point.
Do not commit.
is we want our little ones to grow up and be great at the high school level, because the end goal is here we have to beat Vineland every single year. That's it.
Go Bolts.
But, so with the short term, where are they playing at right now?
Everybody is trying to figure it out at Lakeside.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know, 'cause all of a sudden you can't play out the sports facility, so I'm just trying to figure out where they're going and where they're gonna go for the short term, because I'd hate to see that just sit and stagnate. So that's what I'm,
Our field, we are out there for the whole season. This is our season. That's where we play our games. That's where we practice. We normally are out there. The band comes out and plays on our main field Tuesdays and Thursdays, so we don't have practices or utilize that field on that. But we accommodated all of our kids, and like I said, we have one practice on the field that he says is not able to be practiced on. Our sophomores practice on that. The freshmen practice on a small field behind the concession, and then we have the seniors and the juniors and the peewees in between, which is our new league. So when they come out to play, it's displacing 3 teams, which will also be the sophomores that will move over once as it gets darker earlier. They can't practice if there's no lights, so they'll be over there. So we'll be housing 4 of our teams on that one field, and we're used to practicing from 5:30 to 8:30. We could do 5:45, but you know
To 6:30, you said.
Yeah, but the seniors, they're going to high school next year, so they practice from 5:30 to 6:30. I mean 5:30 to 8:30. When I pulled up the last game, our seniors were practicing in the parking lot. I'm not comfortable with that.
I'm not comfortable with that either. As Sam mentioned earlier, there's people who've come through Target, and no, they should not be practicing in the parking lot.
So that's when I prompted her. I'm like, the first couple of times they ran a little bit late, but it went later and later. So that's why I said we have to find a solution.
Lagamba, when was the marching band practicing over at Memorial at night?
It's been a few years now.
Been a few years.
Probably a year before, was it 2015 right? Was it 2015 when you looked from? Yeah.
Would that be an option? I think they have 9 practices left.
I don't think I don't really think that.
Rob would be yelling at me right now. How dare you? I'm a bad mom, but hey, trying to come up with a solution. It's under the lights. They have the lines. It's their field. That's where they perform.
Sure.
That we don't even practice on our game field because it's not really, it has big mud spots, the rain is really rough, so we don't even allow our kids only on that field when we have games, that's it.
And the field hockey field at the high school is not existent anymore, correct?
Not, it's not, it's gonna become, it will be next year, hopefully. It's a
Gotcha,
retention
that
area
was
now, but hopefully we get it
part of
back.
the
Yeah.
mess of the demolition and,
It's part of the construction program.
yeah, I've heard Stephanie's spiel on that.
We're hoping to get it back next year,
Yeah,
so we'll see.
okay.
Yeah.
So we've been accommodating and helping, so I don't know, Sam.
So
We're in a pickle, guys.
Yeah, we are. So, I mean, the issue is just getting done. Really, it's a game. It's a game time issue. It's just, you know. And listen, you guys know how I feel about the youth football program. I wouldn't want the football games ending early. It's tough I can't end the field hockey games ending. I can't have them ending early as well. It's just, it puts us in a conundrum. I mean, I know the one thing that I can do is guarantee that we are done at a certain time by 6 o'clock. That's for the most part. I think that the games went a little longer because of transportation from the other school, but that's one of those things that we have to make sure that those other schools are honoring our time frame as well. But yeah, right. So there's things that can and we're talking just a couple of days. It is, but and like I said earlier, you weren't here when I said I feel bad that you had to start 45 minutes late. It's a tough area, because you're there, and I heard the kids were practicing in the parking lot, so it's tough.
It's not just a few minutes, because where we already are, we have the band out there, and then we also have, you say a couple days, but Fridays we don't have practice out there at all. So maybe games could be on that day. I don't know, but Fridays we don't have practice because we have our boys support the older brothers at the high school level. So that way they're not out there on Fridays at all. So we could work around practices, but they're already missing that Friday day, and then because of Monday and Wednesday, we swap them around too. So it's really hard to now we miss the days and then we miss the time.
Dave, do you know their schedule, and do they know your schedule for out there?
I mean, I can give you
I
our
mean,
game
if you guys
schedule.
could swap, and then if you do it
Sure.
between each other with the
last
scheduling.
6 years, we didn't have this issue. I didn't know that they were even practicing on the field.
So the-
They were always off beforehand or whatever, because I didn't have the issue. It's just now we're coming in and our boys are there, and I'm seeing our boys going across the whole game that's going on, and it's our boys and then their girls. I don't want that issue either. There's a lot of things that happen, I don't want, and then our parents are different parents than their parents. I don't want all of them, intermingling and trying to, this is our field, that's their field, whatever, trying to, it's just, we didn't know. We were not aware, and it's very hard to start later.
I was just looking to resolve your short term,
Yes.
if that was
If you-
possible with Dave, and then the city and the board could work on the other in the committee.
If you were to ask my
strategy
middle
committee.
school field hockey coach, she would tell you that she would prefer playing field hockey right there on that Genesis field. Unfortunately, for field hockey, and you can practice other sports on that field, but you can't practice and play field hockey on that field. It's just not. It's the one sport where where you need the field to be
The field itself to play.
Yeah, it needs to be a pristine surface, because if not, the ball's going to get buried in the sand. You're not going to be able to swing and hit the ball. It's the one sport that the field actually needs to be, where the grass needs to be cut, the field needs to be really tight.
Did the time, are game times changing? Like, as she said, I personally have never been out there when two teams are, she's making it sound like you guys have gone before they have gotten there in the past. Have times changed?
No.
Something's changed? Okay.
It's always been 4 o'clock. The only thing that has more than likely changed is transportation.
Okay.
And, having teams coming maybe a little later. That's probably that's
Probably what they get.
more than likely that what has happened.
I've never, since I've been out there, since 6 years, I've never had that issue.
Yeah.
It never came up where our boys was coming on the field as they were still playing the game, and our boys standing off to the side. We haven't had that issue.
Yeah, we've always, and our game times have always been at 4 because the kids get out at 3:15. So there's no way to start the games any earlier. It's just not possible. So 4 o'clock is the earliest that we can start the games there.
Because they're
So
traveling.
how long
into-
are the games, an hour?
So the games are about an hour and a half. So then you run into that brings you to about 5:30, right? And then, so now if you get a team that comes late, you run into that situation where that pushes it back a little bit. Our numbers have grown too, and we have not just a varsity. We also have a JV team. We also have a JV program at the middle school level for field hockey. So, and they've been out there for I think my first couple of years we had them play at the high school. But other than that, I want to say for the last 15 years we've been playing at Lakeside. The Genesis field. Yeah. But even so though, we're playing here, soccer, the soccer still played here. Soccer still, even if I were to move field hockey to that other field, soccer still plays here. So what I had to do this year because of the field, unfortunately what we needed to do is now I have boys soccer and girls soccer practicing on the same field together. So what we did is we literally had to split this field up into two.
Where did they practice before, the boys and girls?
Boys soccer, girls soccer?
Yeah.
They practice here at the target field, we'll call it. But now, Commissioner Sui, I have boys soccer, girls soccer, and field hockey, all three at this field. That's a lot of student athletes on that field.
But they always practice at that facility.
They've always practiced at so boys and girls soccer practice at the target, and then field hockey practice at the Genesis
Lakeside
field.
in general. They always
Lakeside in
practice
general,
Lakeside in
correct,
general.
yes, sir. So they've always practiced there, correct.
We need to look at everybody's schedules and just see what the,
Well, I do have them all, and that's really what it is. It's about if they're running over, coming into the time they want to be there.
and not having the lights out there to allow them to be pushed back, correct?
Yeah, so.
And then with fall back, you're gonna lose light even sooner.
We still got another month, but that's going to happen at some point. And time starting to get dark now. Obviously,
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
right.
it's 6:15 and it's dark out there.
Yeah.
All right, anybody have anything else that we can think of right now? I think this is something that we all kind of have to let stew and think and see if we can come up with something else.
And once again, I'm open to, if you would still like to have a discussion,
Absolutely.
please feel free.
Agreed.
No, that's absolutely going to happen. It has to.
No problem.
Good.
Please let us know.
All right. Hey, thanks everybody up here. Appreciate everybody's work. Samantha, you too, and for the Mills back here, thank you. Mr. Ennis, good seeing you as well, man.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Mr. Legamba.
Anything else you want? All right, so we will be done with that for this evening, but we will, if there's anything else and anybody can come up with while you're laying in bed counting sheep, let us know, because we're open to suggestions. Commissioner Romney, did you have anything else?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to talk with the further commission about new business item number 2. That is regarding the motion to authorize the special events on our public lands about the what's it called? The Tri-County Motorcycle Association, the Tri-County Sportsman Motorcycle Club, which is happening on November 6th. In this administration, we have taken many strides to discourage the use of illegal riding on public lands. This seems like it is contradicting what we have here established already in the city. Now, granted, this is going to be a legalized event. We have disapproval of the of the government. No, we have disapproval of the Millville Police Department Traffic Safety Unit denying this event. I believe in all their aspects of why that this event, is contradicting to what we have already have established here in the city. I'm just bringing that to your attention of how I'm perceiving this event to take place. We can't pick and choose who we want to have on our public land. Unfortunately, that some bad people take to it that ride on it illegally and cause mayhem and disturbance, and then we enact rules and regulations to have our police department sit out there and deter that illegal riding. We can't then in turn allow a legal sanction event, because outside looking in, how are those people that trespass from New York and Pennsylvania that have been going there on organized Facebook events know that they paid their insurance and this and that? And as of September 30th, Mint's Insurance redacted their insurance approval for that in concurrence of what JIF will say. And in light of that, look at what has recently happened in Wildwood. Yeah, that was an unsanctioned event, but it has to play a part to what this event is or can happen. It's all in the future. We don't know, but just bringing it to your attention.
If I can comment on that for a second, if you would. I look at this as a similar situation to the state closing Manatico, right? They closed Manatico because of some bad actors, and then everybody that follows the law can't use it. So if we have people that are willing to follow the law and use our land, we should allow them to use it as opposed to those that are breaking the law and attempting to use our land. So I just hope you guys consider that tonight.
And just to add quickly too, because we do have another meeting we have to get to. I have to echo Commissioner Romnick's thoughts because we did in the MPD put a lot of time and effort out there on Saturdays and Sundays. At the requests, at the hollering and yelling of residents, especially the soccer field. I understand that, and you know, I'm going to have to echo his thoughts on that process because we did put a lot of time and effort out there over the course of 6 weeks.
I understand the point and what Vice Mayor said, but there's also, they predict 700 riders to this property. Is there a soccer game that's going to be happening? Is that a distraction to the soccer game? I mean, the land that they want to ride on is right there, behind the soccer field. How do we know all 700 are going to behave properly in a nice, orderly manner driving through those trails? Are there going to be some knuckleheads out of 700 that potentially go into that parking lot?
Well, this isn't the first time that event's been out there.
Correct. I understand it's been happening for 20-some years.
Devil's advocate, what if something happens and they don't have insurance? Who's responsible for that?
Well, they're all licensed riders, so they would all have insurance. They all presented an insurance certificate, I believe, for the event.
Every
One
single.
does, but not every rock, like, we
Right.
don't-
Right, but every bike there is supposed to be licensed and insured.
Are they
So,
gonna
but they
approve
have
that?
insurance for the event as well, correct?
They have insurance for the event.
But the only thing we have happening now is Men's Insurance Agency
Is not.
has pulled their insurability in case something happens to a rider. We got that email about 2:45 this afternoon that they are not going to insure this event until they hear further from the JIF
Correct.
on guidance on insuring this event. That email came out about 2:45 this afternoon.
I think it's a great event. It's both sides. It's great for the community. This organization's been around for 30 plus years. They do for the community. I'm not against the event, but the property, as we've had conversation, do we know what is out there? Is there trees down? Are they going to go out and make sure that the trail is cleared? Unfortunately, are there homeless out there? Is there another property that would be safer for them to be on? I mean, I'm just asking questions.
I believe they're going through about 6 or 7 different townships. It's a 100-mile ride or something. So they're going across highways, they're going down roads, and they're going through 6 or 7 other townships. The only thing I'm confused about is who put it on the agenda if you didn't want it? Why would you put it on the agenda and create controversy where there need not be any?
Has there ever been a problem with it before, having accidents or people getting hurt that we got sued from that in the last, 20, 30 years it's been
They
here?
did it last year. That's the first time it came into our city.
Okay, so it hasn't been here for 20-some years coming to our city. Okay,
How
that's
long
what
has it been here, Sam?
that's what it
How long?
sounded like it was here, and I was like, I never heard of it.
It's been a
Does it
number,
predate
from my
you, or-
understanding, it's been a
Go ahead.
number.
Does it predate your term?
I honestly don't, I don't remember. It was on last year.
It was. It went through without a hitch, and the insurance was approved,
Yeah,
and
last
he
year
did
was
everything
perfect.
that he did last year, exactly the same way.
Yeah.
But the sentiment has changed, I think, from police departments, what my understanding was.
Did we have a report? Did anybody speak to police?
I have a traffic safety report from them.
Correct. As I have it in front of me, Mayor.
I can give this to you.
And is the PD going to be there? Are they going to be monitoring this? Do they have people do they even have the staff to do that?
They paid for special services last year for them to come and
they're
be
doing
there.
that this year?
They offered to do it, but it's been denied by traffic safety.
So now they wouldn't have traffic safety, so that's an issue.
That's an
Correct.
issue, absolutely.
That's a major issue. Major highway, major roads that these bikes
Well,
would be crossing or
And the
stopping.
way he made it sound, it's in the,
But
I
there's
guess,
the PD's not
When
willing to
when
stop
you have
it.
100 motorcycles riding down the road, where do we ever have a cop or a state cop saying, wait, stop directing traffic. We don't. They do it all the time.
They did it last year, they had PD,
Any
now the
run,
PD
any
is not gonna.
motorcycle run.
They're
when they have
offering to
100
pay
bikes.
for it. That's the thing. They're offering to pay for it.
They did ask for 2 officers, and they are gonna pay, they're gonna pay $80 an hour to those officers. That's in this
And I-
11-page,
And I gotta,
application.
I gotta say one other thing concerning the insurance. It's a little concerning that the insurance company would not insure an event for the city. Now, I can understand there may be risk involved, but the professional services contracts are coming up soon, and we should keep this in mind, that if they're gonna pick and choose, maybe we need to start looking around. Just saying.
I'm not against the event. I I don't know what's out there. And I wouldn't hate to see somebody get hurt. Are they gonna go out and look at that property? I mean, in the fields where we have restricted outside riders, we've put signs up. Is either their organization, or are we gonna go out there and make sure that no one's gonna flip over a down tree on our property? I'm just asking questions. I wanna make sure that this is.
It's an industrial park, and I'm guessing probably next year there'll be a bunch of flipped over trees, because half of them.
'Cause they're gonna be gone.
Well, it's not gonna
Yeah.
be there next year, correct? I mean, there's tons of interest. This isn't gonna happen on this property next year. I understand that. I just wanna make sure that, we're thinking of all of the options.
That is all from me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hewitt, do you have anything this evening?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner McQuaid?
Not at this time.
Vice Mayor?
No.
Okay. I don't have anything either. We have public comment. If anybody would like to come to the podium, address the commission and their concerns, please come to the podium, state your name and your concern, and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Okay, seeing nobody, we'll close the public comment portion. Does anybody have closing comments? Okay, and it looks like we do have a resolution. Jeannie?
Okay, so we have a resolution authorizing a closed session for the following matter. Proposal by a potential redeveloper to purchase part of James R. Hurley Industrial Park located at Block 136, Lot 1, under contract negotiations.
Make a motion.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second on resolution 1 for a closed session. Any comments? Roll call?
Commissioner Hewitt?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sui?
Yes.
Commissioner Romanek?
Yes.
Commissioner McQuaid?
Yes.
Mayor Orndorff?
Yes,
Okay, motion carries.
and we will be back. Oh,
you.
sorry. Aye, thank you. We are adjourned.
Every time I
Okay,
open the
sorry.
newspaper, look on Facebook, I see your face.